It was the 23rd of May 2016. She hurried home to be with her crying baby. At about 11:07 p.m., she opened the front door of her semi-detached house and stepped into darkness. Reaching out, she switched on the light in the hallway. 45 seconds later, the light in the hallway went out. Darkness followed, and then she felt it, the thrust of something sharp plunging into her body. Shocked and in excruciating pain, she screamed and screamed as she felt cold steel sink into her flesh again and again and again, her precious life slipping away with each stab. 8 minutes later, a woman wielding a bloody kitchen knife stepped back and viewed the carnage that she had caused. Perhaps she felt a sigh of relief escape her lips. At last, the obstacle that was her sister was removed, and she can finally have her sister's husband and the life that she so coveted. This is a true story of Sabah Khan, who brutally murdered her sister, Saima Khan, so that she could live her sister's life.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. Anxiety, filling up every space, no privacy, and silently, it could build and build until you finally see, whoa, it's taking over, damn no.
Hello, how are you today? I hope that you're having an incredibly good day. Welcome to my channel where I discuss true crime cases that have reached out to me. If you're a returning viewer, thank you and welcome back. It is much appreciated. If you like my content, I hope that you will like and share this video so more people can view it. That will help this channel tremendously. Also, please subscribe to my channel. When subscribing, click on the notification bell so that you won't miss out on any of my future uploads. Thank you very much. This video is made from information obtained from multiple online sources, and because of that, I'm unable to verify the accuracy of the information. So please do your own research. Now, because I talk about murder, and that might be disturbing to some of you, viewer discretion is advised. With that out of the way, grab a hot or cold drink, sit back while I tell you the true story of Sabah Khan, who murdered her very own sister. Our story takes place in London, England. England is made up of counties, and Luton is in the county of Bedfordshire, which is some 50 kilometers to the north of London. It has its own university, the University of Bedfordshire, and one of 6 airports servicing London, from where commercial planes fly to cities in the European continent, the Asian part of Turkey, and North Africa. Luton hosts the largest one-day carnival in Europe. Luton is also associated with hat making, which was its dominant trade in the 18th century, and it has its own football club, the Luton Town Football Club, that competes in the Premier League. The players are called hatters because of Luton's traditional hat making industry. Ethnic minority groups now form the majority of the population of Luton. The Khans, one such minority family, lived in a house in Overston Road in Luton. They were a Pakistani Muslim family. Like many people of South Asia, where families are closely connected, the Khan family lived as a traditional Pakistani joint family. In May of 2016, the household consisted of Mr. and Mrs. Khan, their daughters Saima, aged 34, and Sabah, aged 26. Saima's husband Hafiz Rahman, aged 37, and Saima's and Hafiz's 4 children, aged 7, 4, 2, and 1. So a total of 9 people lived in the house on Overston Road in May of 2016. Now, from the outside looking in, the Khans were a family that lived in harmony, each being part of a support system for the whole family. One for all and all for one. But no one really knows what goes on behind closed doors. Indeed, what went on in this house in Overston Road, unknown to even the Khan family members, is the story that I tell you today. Unlike most of the other ethnic minority groups, the Khan family came to England in 2009, not from their native country, but from Holland, where Saba was born. When they arrived in England, Saima was 26 and Saba was 18. Although the family had lived in Europe for so long, they were still a traditional Pakistani Muslim family. It was therefore no wonder that Saima, the elder sister, was open to the idea of an arranged marriage. So when she received a proposal from a man named Hafiz from Pakistan, she said yes, and they were married in 2011. It was reported that Hafiz had met the Girds earlier when he was 21, Saima was 18, and Saba was just 10 years old. So I presume that he was some kind of relative, perhaps a distant one. Anyway, after Saima and Hafiz got married, Hafiz came to live in England where he worked as a taxi driver. Saima was a care worker who took care of elderly people. There is not much information about Saba's job, although some reports have it that she was also a care worker. Saima and Saba had grown up very close as sisters, but things became complicated after Saima married Hafiz. This had everything to do with Hafiz, who turned out to be a rather unsavory character. He had an eye for the ladies, you see, which he didn't curb even after he married Saima. In fact, Hafiz turned his attentions on Saba, his much younger sister-in-law. As the reports go, Hafiz manipulated and enticed Saba to sleep with him. Before she knew it, Saba was embroiled in a full-blown affair with Hafiz. It was a relationship that was to last 4 years, right under the noses of the Khan family. No one suspected anything, least of all the poor wife, Saima. We don't know for sure how Hafiz regarded Saba. Was Saba a convenient in-house tool to add variety to his sex life? Is that how he viewed Saba? Maybe. But for Saba, Hafiz became everything to her as the two carried on behind everyone's back. She loved him, and her feelings of Hafiz only intensified until they consumed her entire being. He became her reason for living. As for his children, Saba had babysat them countless times, and she loved them as if they were her own. Soon, Saba wasn't content to be just the other woman. She wanted a life in the open with Hafiz. Apparently, Hafiz asked the imam in his local mosque whether he could marry 2 sisters. He was told that he couldn't because it's forbidden in Islam. We don't know what prompted him to do that. Perhaps he did want to make an honest woman of Saba after all. Anyway, the life that Saba craved for was not forthcoming. It could never be. Hafiz belonged to someone else. He was her sister's husband. So for Saba, it was either an illicit relationship or no relationship at all. The second wasn't an option because Saba couldn't conceive of a life without Hafiz. So Saba's relationship with Hafiz continued, known only to the both of them. She did as he wanted. She even became pregnant because he refused to wear a condom, and she was forced to have an abortion. As her passion for Hafiz intensified, Saima, her once beloved sister, became her number one enemy. The obstacle standing in her way to claim Hafiz and Saima's children as her own. The more her feelings for Hafiz grew, the more she resented Saima, until the love she had for her sister turned into hatred. A hatred that evolved out of intense jealousy. As time went on, it appears that Saba became possessive and demanding of Hafiz. Probably because of that, Hafiz's attitude towards Saba began to cool, and he started withdrawing from Saba emotionally. That, however, didn't mean that he stopped sleeping with her. That continued nevertheless. I suppose that as far as Hafiz was concerned, it suited him fine to sleep with two sisters because one was willing and the other was totally in the dark. Hafiz would later blame Saba for initiating the affair and say that he tried many times to end the relationship, but every time she tried, she would threaten to harm herself. He therefore had no choice but to carry on. Poor man. Perhaps it was at this time that he approached the Imam with his question about marrying two sisters. In any event, Hafiz began to give Saima, his wife, more of his attention, and this cooling off by Hafiz infuriated Saba. Although she was the mistress, she began to demand more and more of Hafiz's time away from his wife. She resented the time and attention that Hafiz paid to Saima. In a WhatsApp message to him, she referred to the poor unsuspecting Saima as the bitch and accused him of having the time to text the bitch 24/7 while for her she had no time. She also accused him of marrying Saima only to obtain a British passport. In another WhatsApp message to him, she wrote, "I don't know why you're treating me like this. I don't know why you don't respect me. Nothing in the world can change my feelings for you, not even you. Day by day, my love for you gets stronger." Saba was intense. She had told him once that she wished that she could take her heart out and show him what he meant to her. She was truly obsessed with Hafiz, and the hopelessness of her situation probably drove her mad. By February 2016, it looks like Hafiz had enough. In the face of this obsessive behavior of Saba, Hafiz decided to move out of the family home with Saima and their children. The Khan family was soon informed of their decision. Saima's parents were fine with this decision. It was, however, a different matter with Saba. This news had a devastating effect on her. She knew that she would lose Hafiz forever if he moved out. Saima would have Saba's Hafiz all to herself. Saima loomed larger than ever in Saba's mind as the obstacle. Saba became an obsessed and scorned lover, a deadly combination. It was now inevitable that Saima had to disappear for her to have her Hafiz and his children and the life that she so desperately craved. Her once beloved sister, her own flesh and blood, became the object of her hatred. The only thing that mattered was getting Saima out of the equation. With her mind made up, she searched online about committing murder. She searched about killing with poison and with poisonous snakes. She Googled 16 steps to murder someone and get away with it. She even contacted a black magician in Pakistan on her mobile, who she referred to as the fixer, and with whom she communicated in the third person. She paid him £5,000 to cast a spell on Saima that will kill her remotely. In a WhatsApp message to the fixer, Saba wrote, "You finish off Saima as quickly as possible so my Saba can get her Hafiz back." May 2016 arrived and nothing was forthcoming from the fixer. Saba was getting desperate because Hafiz's departure from the family home at the end of May was fast approaching. The pressure to remove her sister from Hafiz's life intensified. It was then or never. So Saba resolved to kill Saima herself. With the decision made, Saba set about making preparations. A week before the 23rd of July, she purchased a large kitchen knife from Tesco. CCTV shows her purchasing the knife. But killing Saima was not going to be easy. Being an extended family, there would always be someone at home. She would have the opportunity only when the children were asleep and there were no adults in the house. The chances of that happening were rare. As it happened, fate colluded with Saba, providing her with the opportunity when a relative of the family died. The funeral of the deceased was to take place late on the night of May the 23rd. Saima was working that night and her parents and Hafiz were going to attend the funeral at the mosque. Saba was to be left at home to babysit Saima's children. This was a golden opportunity. Saba Googled information about how long a Muslim funeral would lasted. Knife was ready. Saba was ready. On the night of May 23rd, 2016, when the children were asleep upstairs, her parents and Hafiz at the funeral, and Saima at work, Saba sent Saima a text saying that her 1-year-old baby was crying. She knew that Saima, the devoted mother that she was, would hurry home to be with her baby. The trap set, Saba broke a window to fake a break-in by an intruder. She then donned black clothes and black gloves, switched off the light in the hallway, and lay in wait in the darkness, hiding from view, knife in hand and perhaps holding her breath. CCTV cameras at a neighbor's house show Saima opening the front door of her house at 11:07 p.m. Saba saw Saima and step into the darkened hallway and switch on the hall light. 45 seconds later, Saima switched the light off and pounced on the poor, unsuspecting Saima and viciously stabbed her again and again while Saima screamed and screamed. The knife attack was frenzied and sustained. Poor Saima didn't stand a chance. Even as she lay there, Saba removed her clothes so that her knife would meet with naked skin, making it easier for her to continue stabbing, and she did just that, again and again and again. A neighbor later said that she heard blood-curdling screams that night coming from the Khan's house at about the time the attack was supposed to have happened. Saba was done after 8 long minutes of sustained stabbing. When she finished, Saima lay in a massive pool of her own blood, hideously butchered. Her neck was slashed, severing her carotid artery and jugular vein. She had been almost decapitated. She had deep wounds on her arms, skull, and face. Her right hand had been chopped off in the frenzied attack. Saima had been stabbed a total of 68 times. According to the post-mortem report, some of the stab wounds were inflicted post-mortem. Such was the fury and hatred of Saba. She must have made a lot of noise because Saima's 7-year-old daughter woke up and called out to Saba, asking her, "Auntie, are you killing a snake?" To which Saba replied, "Go back to sleep." With her planned and premeditated murder done, Saba staged the crime scene as a burglary. She put the bloody clothes, gloves and knife in a black bin bag together with some items of jewelry and hid the bin bag in her bedroom. She then went upstairs to have a shower. When she was done, she called her father, who told her to call emergency services. She must have called her father to try out her story with him. She then called 999 and waited confidently for the police outside her house, knowing exactly what she was going to tell them. The family arrived before the emergency services, and neighbors were woken up by Saba and her mother crying and screaming in the street. The paramedics arrived, but they couldn't do anything for Saima because she was long gone. A neighbor said that later that Saba was going mad asking the paramedics to help Saima, but they said they couldn't do anything and they had to leave her how she was because it was a crime scene. When the police questioned Saba, she started off breathless and in an unnaturally whiny and high-pitched voice told her story, which essentially was that she had texted her sister to come home as one of her children was crying. She then went to have a shower. While she was in the shower, she heard some banging. She came down after her shower and saw her sister lying in the hallway covered in blood. She claimed that a burglar had broken into the home and murdered her sister. She told police that when she saw Saima lying in her blood, she had rushed to her and hugged her. She then placed her scarf on some wounds, trying to stem the flow of blood, causing her scarf to have some blood on it. When the police asked her about the cut on her hand, she said that she had cut her hand on some glass that was lying around Saima's body, possibly from the broken window through which the intruder had entered the house. Saba had her answers. She was prepared. The longer she spoke with the police, the calmer she became, and she told her story in a linear fashion, without hesitation, one event after another in chronological order. That probably waved a red flag for the police. Also, although she was reeling off her story, she didn't exhibit any appropriate emotion, quite unexpected from a woman who had just come across the butchered body of her sister. According to a psychologist who was interviewed, the lack of appropriate emotion was telling. It was as if she just wanted to get her rehearsed story out to the police, quite forgetting the emotions that should necessarily accompany it. But looking at the savagery of the crime scene, the police initially believed that the murder must have been done by a man. Now, what happened to Saima was an overkill. As we true crime enthusiasts know, so many wounds mean that the attack was personal. No random burglar would inflict so many wounds. Overkill is the mark of a murderer with intense personal and negative feelings towards the victim. So, the police were not fooled for long. They soon had their suspicions. Saba, however, maintained her story of a burglary gone wrong until the suspicious police searched her house 8 days after the murder and found the black bin bag with the incriminating items in her bedroom. 8 days later, the bin was still in her bedroom. Can you believe it? Either she was very confident that the police believed her story, or she wasn't thinking at all. When confronted with this discovery, Saba came up with the story that she had an argument with Saima that night and lost control. She said Saima made her feel worthless and that Hafiz had been raping her all this while. Now, when that explanation didn't fly with the police, Saba came up with another story, a rather mean one. She said that she overheard a telephone conversation between Saima and her lover, during which conversation Saima's lover had threatened to harm Saima. I really don't understand how Saba thought that she could just change her story as and when and be believed. As expected, the police didn't believe her. Furthermore, Saba had left her digital footprint for the police to see. The police, while going through Saba's mobile phone, read numerous WhatsApp messages between her and Hafiz that told the police all that they needed to know. The affair, her feelings for Hafiz, and her rage, resentment, envy, jealousy, and hatred for Saima were all evident from the WhatsApp messages. The police also came across her messages to the fixer. Saba was arrested and charged with Saima's murder. There was only one charge, that of murder. It was not a crime of passion, neither was it a killing due to provocation. It had no mitigating factors. It was a premeditated murder planned and executed by her, and the prosecution charged her accordingly with murder. Saba was ordered to stand trial at the Old Bailey, the Central Criminal Court of England and Wales, situated in London. Her trial was scheduled to start on 24th of October 2017. Saba maintained her innocence while awaiting her murder trial. Her trial, however, didn't go on because on 24th October 2017, Saba, clad in a black top and black trousers, pleaded guilty to the single charge of murder. The court then adjourned the matter to the 26th of October for the prosecution to provide the court with a full outline of the case for the purpose of sentencing. On 26 October 2017, the prosecution presented the facts of the case to the court. The prosecutor informed the court about the affair between Hafiz and Saba, the intensity of Saba's emotions for Hafiz, Hafiz cooling off from Saba, which saw Saba erupt in fury, her rage, resentment and hatred for Saima, who she saw as the obstacle to the life she wanted. The WhatsApp messages between Hafiz and Saba were also read out in court. The court heard about the internet searches and the black magician in Pakistan who she asked to kill off Saima remotely. The court also heard how she lured her sister back home and stabbed her 68 times as Saima entered the house. Saba's defense barrister, perhaps in mitigation, said that Saba was remorseful and would have to live with the fact that she killed her own sister for the rest of her life. He also informed the court that Saba had mental health issues and had in the past cut and attempted to strangle herself. In support, her defense barrister admitted psychiatric reports that said that Saba was emotionally unstable and had a form of a depressive disorder. He said that it was not true that Saba had initiated the affair. He informed the court that Hafiz, being a decade older, had manipulated Saba into having an affair with him, and by manipulating her, he gained exclusive rights to her. In a letter that was read out by Saba's barrister, Saba expressed failure, guilt, responsibility, and shame for what she had done. In the end, the judge sentenced Saba to life with a mandatory term of 22 years. This means that she will be eligible for parole after 22 years. The judge told Saba that the murder was no spontaneous event and that it was astonishingly brutal. Saba was emotionless when she was sentenced. What Saba did was wrong and evil, and she did it willingly and consciously. The detective in charge of the case said that she was a cold and calculating killer, and I don't think that we can disagree with him. But let's just take a step back and look at things from Saba's perspective. She was Saima's younger sister and 11 years younger than Hafiz. Coming from a traditional Pakistani Muslim family, Saba probably lived a sheltered life, and when she was only 22 years old, Hafiz manipulated her into having an affair with him. It's not surprising that Saba's feelings for Hafiz grew. However, they grew with such intensity that she was desperately and hopelessly in love with him. There she was in the same household with her sister and the object of her desire, who was so far beyond her reach. She was 26 years old and unmarried. She had no nuclear family of her own, even though she was in a full-blown relationship with a man whom she loved to obsession and had even become pregnant with his child. A pregnancy that she had no choice but to terminate, as it was her brother-in-law's baby and the result of an illicit relationship. Having a husband and children give many women a purpose and a sense of belonging, and I guess that Saba wanted that. But in her case, that was never going to be. Even in that scenario, she carried on with him, because in such cases, emotions take over and reason takes a few steps back. Saba indulged Hafiz in every way. She waited for Saima to be at work before they could be together. She suffered the ignominy of having to make love in the back seat of his taxi. She also had sex with him without protection because he refused to wear a condom. She became pregnant and because of that had to go through the trauma of an abortion. That was her fate. Always in the dark, never in the light. Destined always to be Hafiz's dirty little secret. Being Hafiz's dirty secret, she had no public standing in his life. To the outside world, she was just his spinster sister-in-law who babysat his children. Now, while she was struggling with all these emotions, Saba did try to move on because she knew the hopelessness of her situation. At some point, she apparently met someone who she thought she could have a life with, but it was not to be. One report says that her parents didn't approve of that person, and another report says that Hafiz drove him away, saying that Saba was mad. It is also reported that she started studying law, probably to take her mind off things, but she quit. Maybe she just couldn't concentrate on studies. Her barrister commented that he didn't get the sense that she had a circle of friends and associates. It seemed to him that she kept to herself and her world revolved around her connection with her sister and her parents. Perhaps she didn't even bother with creating a life outside her home because everything she ever wanted was at home. Her every wish, every desire, every need, every joy, every sadness, every hurt, every disappointment. She experienced all at home. Now don't get me wrong. What Saba did was despicable and contemptible. I'm not excusing her, just trying to understand why she did what she did. The indisputable fact was that she could only watch from the periphery the life that she wanted, the life that was being lived by Saima. She became detached from reality and we can feel some sympathy for her, but not enough to excuse her deliberate act of murder, the calculated covering of her tracks, her accusation of being raped repeatedly by Hafiz, and most abhorrently, tarnishing Saima's name by accusing her of having a lover. Now what about Hafiz? What's his culpability? Massive, I think. If the reports are correct, he was manipulative, he was selfish, and he had the gall to say that Sabah initiated the affair. When the killing took place in 2016, Sabah and Hafiz had carried on their affair for 4 years. Now this would mean that they started their affair sometime in 2012. Considering that Hafiz and Saima got married sometime in 2011, Hafiz obviously wasted no time into manipulating Sabah into an affair. It must have been easy for him to manipulate a woman 11 years his junior and someone she respected as her brother-in-law and probably looked up to. There didn't appear to be anything wrong with Hafiz's and Saima's marriage. So, unfortunately for Sabah, she was just a convenient distraction. Perhaps Hafiz thought that Sabah was easy prey with whom he could have a casual affair and who would act according to his dictates. He perhaps thought that he could end the affair whenever he wanted, and Sabah would just slink away and lick her wounds in private. He obviously didn't expect her to become totally obsessed with him. Hafiz miscalculated big time. When he tried to distance himself, Sabah reacted by threatening to harm herself if she didn't continue to sleep with her. This was a fatal attraction that he didn't anticipate. It's unfortunate that the innocent Saima and her children had to suffer because of his indiscretion. Now, Hafiz, the man who put this whole disaster in motion, was not in court when Sabah was sentenced. How abandoned she must have felt, standing in court alone, facing the judge who was going to decide her fate. Even though Hafiz didn't attend court, he had prepared a victim impact statement that was read out in court on his behalf. In his statement, Hafiz said that he never imagined that something like this would happen, and that never a day goes by without him regretting his affair with Sabah. He said that Sabah's actions have left his 4 children without a mother. He and his children have lost a wonderful wife and mother who was there for them and who did everything for them. He said that he has lost his world and he cries every day. He described Saima as a loving mother to 4 beautiful children, a devoted wife, a beloved daughter, and the most caring of sisters. Though she was quiet, she loved laughing and joking within the family. Saima sounds like a wonderful human being who knew her responsibilities and carried them out. Now, what surprises me is that Hafiz says that his children have lost their mother because of Sabah's actions. What about his indiscretion that eventually led to the carnage in the hallway of the house he lived in? His selfish actions split asunder 2 families, the Khan's and his own. In all of this, let's not forget the elderly Khans and Saima's children. The Khans lost 2 daughters, and for the rest of their lives, they will have to suffer the pain of knowing that one daughter killed the other. Can they ever unsee the sight of their mutilated daughter lying in a pool of blood, or the sight of Sabah in prison clothes? They sold their house and moved away from the horrendous memories of that fateful night. As for Saima's children, they will grow up without a loving mother and knowing what their father did, that their loving aunt was in prison for killing their mother. So much emotional baggage for them to carry through life. Sabah appealed her sentence to the Criminal Appeal Court, saying that her minimum sentence was too harsh, but the court didn't think that it was manifestly excessive to warrant a reduction. So Sabah will remain incarcerated at His Majesty's pleasure until 2039 at least. she has a long time to reflect on what she did. Thank you all for clicking on my channel, and a special thank you to those of you who are still with me as I conclude this episode. Please do subscribe, like, and share this video. YouTube and I both love that. Until I see you again, take care, be vigilant, and be kind. Bye.